Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to another CPE program on ethical dilemmas hosted by IAEA Madras chapter. Today, for this event, we are having esteemed guest, Mr. Raman Narasimhan. So, I'll briefly introduce the speaker for today. Raman Narasimhan is a Chief Risk Officer at Sundaram Finance. He was earlier heading the internal audit for entire Sundaram Finance Group. He has experience of more than 30 years. This experience includes areas such as risk management, internal audits, ethics and compliance investigations, AML reviews, digital forensics, compliance requirements under SEBI, RBI, IRDA frameworks, and standards on information security and privacy. He has modeled privacy governance and carried out impact assessments and advised on data classification. Raman had earlier worked with Dell, PwC, TCS, and Grant Thornton, heading IA and forensic divisions. Raman holds fellow membership with Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is a graduate in law from Madras Law College and a certified arbitrator and a member of Science and Technology section of American Bar Association. He is a platinum member with ISACA with IT audit, security, and holds certifications including CISA, CISM, CRISC, and CDPSC. He is also a certified fraud examiner and founder president of Chennai chapter of ACFE and part of the Global Advisory Council. He co-authored Leveraging Data Analytics for Fraud Detection and AI in Financial Services, a primer for internal audit and fraud detection, both published by Institute of Internal Auditors, India. We are very, very happy to have you with us today, sir. And a extra important point to note, he has been our speaker every year for the CPE on ethics. So welcome back to this event, sir. We are eagerly waiting to hear the new things that you have on ethical dilemmas today to be shared with our members. Over to you, sir.
Sure, thank you. Thanks a lot for all IAEA office bearers. Thanks, Deepika, Ravi, sir, everyone there. And certainly thanks for, the participants who encouraged me over the years, right, asking right questions or I think this one, I have been asked to start the video, but I will stay off the video for a little while, maybe another 1 second. Yeah, we will continue for a while in video, but to make it easy, I think I will switch over only to audio. I hope it is fine. The other, I have a plan this time. I was also telling both Deepika as well as Mr. Ravi, right? Every year, like on the case studies, I would ask you several questions. I would encourage you people to go over chat the last 5-10 minutes. Maybe we can unmute, we can discuss. But the questions, some of the questions are most, I would say, will not have, I don't want to rather say right or wrong. I would rather encourage you people or make you trigger with some thoughts. You think over what could be ethical in a given situation. That's the background, or that is a kind of a disclaimer, or that is a kind of, how I want to run the case study this time. I hope you will all enjoy. But do chat and we can always discuss at the end of the session, right? Saravanan, if you can start, move on the slide. Yeah, it looks like a crossroad, right? Which lane is right? Are we disciplined to follow the lane? It's not a kind of sports we are in the organization, or as part of, certainly when you call Institute of Internal Auditor or Internal Auditor and the independence, you should know about the kind of conflict, if at all we have, and ensure the independence. I thought probably try to give this picture and think a little different on this on the crossroad, right? Move on, please. Next few slides, it is just for a kind of formality. You all know this 4 pillar: integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, competence. But just I thought all the slides invariably will have some thoughts It could be an issue related to, confidentiality or maybe objectivity, maybe, something on the knowledge also. But the case studies are kind of, prepared, keeping these pillars in mind. And there could be some case studies where beyond, or I would say, touching upon multiple pillars, right? Move on, please. Okay. I'll give a minute or so. This all known to you. So the one on the left and one on the right, who stays with the integrity. So when we do things right, particularly first time right, or looking at, sometimes people talk about it could be slow when you are doing it right, but end of the day, do with confidence, do with self-esteem, do with whatever procedures or processes. And also, ethical is not just about controls, process control, operational risk, or related control, right? It is much beyond. So look at with integrity as well. Go on, please. So all of you know about this. If you ask yourself in a given situation, something like, do I believe this is the right course of action? It will give you a lot of, thinking in your mind, trigger your thoughts. You can think about, am I being just fair and considerate? Is there a person I could talk to? See, because some of the, I would also call from the risk table, when looking at from the risk and also from the control that goes to, the third pillar, there could be some question where you'll not be able to take a decision right away, but nothing wrong. Think about and take assistance wherever required. So automatically you will look at how I feel about myself after a kind of, you take a decision. That is important. Move on, please. This role kind of you call signs of integrity, or it could be some kind of signal or symptom, how we are acting with the integrity. It's one of the key values that we need to, display with confidence, right? There can't be any doubt on integrity. So I will leave for a minute. You can go through this and yeah, okay. Um, there could be other consideration you can ask yourself, am I honest in every respect? Or certainly how my family members would view after some action. This is all important. I have given you 4 or 5 questions, but you can prepare your own list, right? That is important. When you start imbibing integrity, imbibing ethics in any of your action, that is what expected as a professional. All the pillars eventually, whether integrity, when you start ask all this question, you will also build your knowledge. You will also know about what is the kind of objectivity to, confidence on that. And the eventually the competence automatically comes in. Move on. So you all know the right thing to do is not always the easy thing, but that is what it matters, right? As a professional. Carry on, please. So from here, I may have around 30, whatever number, 30 or kind of case studies. As I told you, I would give a couple of minutes for you. It is all kind of imaginary case studies. And to excite, I have given some kind of celebrity name also in some of the cases. At the same time, I would, as I told you, there is no right or wrong answer. Just think about, let us go one by one. Here's something, this is a case where social media giant, the documents got revealed or data leakage, and several of their algorithms were, found to be discriminating in nature, right? So, There are a couple of points, and then there is a question you also wanted to check with, your audit committee of the board. So you have five questions. I would encourage probably if you can chat, put your views. Do you think it's the internal auditor job first of all? The data leakage is beyond if you think, okay, if the controls were checked or regular systems audit or whatever information security audit was carried out. And you can always say, my ACB, they cannot put this in their scope or annual calendar. Per calendar I completed, and the controls, never revealed a leak at that time. And I don't know, it is beyond my scope for looking at the bias, but the management was looking at. Do you think it is the right way, or what if you or, you know, look at your position? If you happen to be the social media giant's internal auditor, what you would do? We'll spend maybe a couple of minutes if you can throw your answer, your views in the chat. Anyone? So my question again, you know, are we talking about what kind of ethics issue? We were looking at four pillars, right? So, are we looking at fairness and equality? Is that a must? Say, for example, if your board or if you happen to be the internal auditor and your organization, your management approved it, or they have not looked at the bias, what you would do? Prithvi, rather than unmuting, I would call probably if you can chat, it will be very helpful. Um, Deepika, could you enable the chat? It looks like chat is disabled.
Okay,
I
sir.
will-
Just looking into it. Just a minute. I think chat is
Sure.
available. Q&A is also available, I think.
Uh,
Otherwise, they can put it in Q&A.
yeah, now I'm able to see the chat. Balaji, you were mentioning like this is an issue of objectivity. Am I right in limiting my scope, or can I go beyond? If I can, at what cost? Yeah, this good view. Any other thoughts? Why only objectivity? That could be something else. Okay. I guess otherwise we will move to next slide. Saravanan, would you like to, can you move on to next slide, please? So this is a popular audit firm. It started employing AI for auditing, and they replaced few resources, but they ensure the quality, and none of the client reported any problem. And anyway, they all know, and the audit firm, whatever the name, VA and Co, they know they are not, A is not signing the financial statement. I think we need to wait for Elon Musk for another maybe couple of years. A robo will come and sign. We don't know, right? But at this point of time for the case study, AI is used, and they replaced few resorts. It could be critical or whatever. We are not talking about the signing partners, but someone. But you're the internal auditor of the organization. You got a couple of questions. how AI audit can maintain objectivity and professional skepticism. You can agree for that question, or you may also say, yeah, AI is fully possible, potential. They can take care of, anything on professional skepticism, whatever required, and of course, objectivity. I'm also asking about data accuracy because as an auditor, or part of the audit process, you will be collecting a lot of documents, structured, unstructured, or in any format. And you need to know, you need to convert that into some form, a machine readable form. But beyond all that, the kind of, again, data manipulation risk or data accuracy risk to get into a kind of a decision, right? Whether AI will do, how it was tested, who tested, what's the kind of a bias in testing, if at all, or they want to showcase, yeah, I got a AI system for auditing. Will that be enough? With the client, if at all, will be impacted because if the consulting or audit firm says, I got a AI robot, and because of that, they want to, showcase their capability in AI, but the client, whether if at all not getting the real values. How you know? You are the internal auditor of the company. Do you think is there a case first or very futuristic? Let us wait for another couple of years for this case. I'm getting few response in the chat, but I'm. Can you stay back on the previous slide, please, Saronan? Yeah, we'll wait for a minute, if at all like. Ravi sir, if you want to jump in with your views.
Any regulation around it?
It's not clearly audible for me. Can you come again? Okay, we will go to the next slide. I will give you a couple of minutes for you to study on this, and then I will also explain briefly what is this about, and then we will look at, is there any kind of ethical concerns, right? Just go through, please. I hope it is readable for all of you.
Comes it has some answers here. Able to hear me, Raman?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So one of the things is difficult to rely directly on AI output. There should be validation mechanism to ensure that AI output is at par with the expectations. AI functioning is usually based on input data. It can be
So, and the periodicity for your question, the input data validation, for example, how frequently it has been getting validated, because there could be a dynamic change either within the organization. Thankfully, either it could be for, regulatory requirement or technology kind of change and related requirement, process or new product or new service. There could be many reasons, but will you be, as a audit firm, work on the AI audit module or whatever tool? Will you be working frequently and checking frequently, validate frequently? If not, we'll be running at a big risk. That is what I would call it rather. So we'll move on to this slide again. A global energy giant face ethics issue. Internal audit document reveal a long-standing awareness of climate change risk, right? But they know very clearly, and in spite of the fact they know about the risk, they prefer to downplay the dangers publicly. So I'm also talking about short-term interest over long-term interest or global consequence. There could be regulatory kind of issues. So what you would do as CAE, you want to explore, because certainly as you know, part of the organization, corporate profit, budgeted, achieved, everything is important, but you also have a role, right, as the internal auditor. So what's your thought? If, as a chief internal auditor or head of audit, whatever name call, if you don't stop, or if you know about this, and also, looking at short-term interest or corporate profit, if at all, like a regulatory slaps with whatever kind of, penalty, or if there is a reputation risk, or there could be some other kind of, shareholder or society kind of impact, what you would do? Would that be ethical? As you know, I told you in the initially, I'm not, though I prefer like if you can chat, nothing like that. But it is to trigger your thoughts at this time. This kind of cases, it is all some of this already you have seen 3 or 4. It is all real life case. Either I would not have provided the name, or you can easily find what is that, either social media or this energy giant. I'm sure you people can guess what is the organization I am looking at. So let me move on.
So Raman, I have a question here.
Sure.
So what is the
can you go back,
penalty
Saravanan?
other than reputation, etc.?
Saravanan, yeah. Sorry.
So
Yeah,
there's a
please.
question on labor practices. So it borderlines on regulatory as well as AI, right? AI and other things. But how do you manage this changing technology? So many changes happening. How do you manage all this? Along with one more now, ethical, right? There is regulatory
Your
issues and
pillar,
other things.
there are two ways. One, certainly you are talking about the pillar 4 or on the knowledge or competence. It is not possible every internal audit team or head of audit or CAE, whatever called, can have knowledge, but you can pick up expertise who are available in the market, right? There is no stoppage. If the organization and the person, they are sure on ethical concerns and they want to address it, I think there is no limit. There are certainly both opportunities and the possibilities to get the real advice, then go on implement. You have to sacrifice somewhere on the profit, somewhere on gaining reputation, gaining brand. I guess that is a call the management or auditor should look at.
And secondly, what is the audit situation today? Because a lot of risk lying all over, and that's always a professional skepticism. That's the word people use, right? So how do you manage this?
No, that is a point, a very valid question or point you are asking. And, I would say nowadays, certainly, it is not if I am talking about one particular operation risk or HR risk or any type of risk driver, it will not end up only with that risk category. It will certainly touch any organization by and large. If the issue is, you are looking at material risk, it will touch at many parameters. It could be reputation, but how you manage how seriously the internal audit function or risk management, or most important, even the risk owner, or it is a kind of sync you should have with the pillar 1, 2, 3. Everyone should know their kind of responsibility. If the risk owners, they don't perceive the risk well, and we go and audit everywhere, that is going to be an issue, right? So let me not get into how we manage. It all depends on individual and organization strength. Let me move on. Can you go to next slide, please? So it is a pretty simple, or I would say only 5 lines for you to read. Let me give a couple of minutes. So what is a key fact or issue behind this? What went wrong? Yeah, I think I got a response from Anupam. It is perfect. Looking at past data is important. At the same time, you don't look at like what I was, mentioning earlier. You have to look at what is the kind of changes and dynamic changes, if any, from technology, processes to anything. Just relying on once upon a time it was developed and going with it, AI will take care of everything it won't. Move on, please. Okay, this is screens and spoofs. I'll give few minutes for you to read through, then we will chat.
Raman, can I have a question here?
Sure.
So how do you compare this with deep fakes, videos and all that?
Deep fake is very advanced, I would say. You'll not be able to this particularly deep fake. I will look at from I think we discussed some time back about crime as a service, if you call, right? It is not SEAAS, CAAS. Deepfake is certainly, with the objective there, and certainly for multiple reason on criminal activity. Of course, spoofing also and screen also, but the level is something different. And also, I would call, here the controls are within the organization. I would ask immediately, what kind of a biometrics control, what kind of records related, how it is preserved, who check. Deep fake is something where it can be either they need not hack and get this. It can be from the kind of social media activity, or from the corporate records that are available in public domain to any place. Here I'm talking about more on internal control. It it is one step ahead. So slowly, I would say if the criminals are able to, get through a kind of cyber attack, get into and slowly fabricate or deceive for whatever kind of a malified intention, next step is could be a deep fake. But again, between screens and spoof, here it is certainly something I would call, particularly to organization, deep fake or nobody I think certainly will look at deep faking using something Ravi Raghavan's photo or Raman's photo. At least I'm not a celebrity, right? That is what I would immediately look at. Uh, but what is your take, Ravi sir?
Yeah, there's so much
Hello.
technology around. So my view again is all these technologies will have to go through a rigorous test, right? But it's bound to be used and misused. So you have so much regulations now on social media coming in. But ethics apart, because if it's social media, nothing works according to me. So if somebody's going to put it on social media, all the best for them. And this is going to be part of the game. And yeah, from an organization perspective, we have similar issues. So we have WhatsApp, fake WhatsApp, and all that running around. And maybe the organization needs to be very, very careful here. And where the ethics
Absolutely.
borderline is, how do we manage it? Okay. And I can give you now
Absolutely.
all the bank fraud examples, technology where bank technology is not maybe misused or fraud has happened. So, yeah, it's a thin line according to me, Raman. Maybe Deepika also, any thoughts? Or there's some chat questions also. Chat answers. Or Deepika can have also some question line.
And with the technology in our hand, like people using mobile to iPad or whatever kind of a device, using official information and whatever, in spite of all the control, like what you said, the use of social media, I would say a lot of information anyway, whether we like it or not, it is in public domain. So it is one side you are fighting with unknown kind of enemy or kind of a the potential like I said criminal as a crime as a service, right? If there could be dark web or people, it is all information why they are collecting. It is all for sale or potential exploit at a later point of time. So at this point of time, I will look at what is the kind of knowledge. Is the internal auditor looking at only scope A, B, C, D as provided, calendarize only that, or looking at something? If the organization think the deep fake could be an issue, my first question to the internal auditor would be, have you carried out the risk assessment properly? Right? And then only the controls. If you don't know how to perceive the risk or even the risk owners, say it is technology, operations, or business, or whatever, they have not perceived deepfake as a risk. Internal audit team, will also, carry on with the same kind of a risk. So that is where I would call the place where we need to expand our knowledge, think through each and everything. You have to smell risk. If you don't smell risk as the internal auditor, it's going to be a tough time, particularly if you're talking about not just spoofing deepfake level, it's going to be more the problem. Let me move on. A very quick question. All of you are certainly
Raman,
specialists
I
in
just
that.
have a question. Hello.
Okay.
All these technologies and point of sale systems and multiple handovers and all. So a straight through processing, one of the definitions in the RBI circular, they've questioned it, right? So how do you manage all these things within this security regime and business also outgrowing and digital taking over most of the business? How do you manage all this? Within the ethics system, something you call it ethics, yes, but social media demands that you market yourself. So business will go overboard to do certain things within the ethics system, but then gets misused. So that's a thin line, right? How do we answer that? As a specialist in this line, and a lot of esteemed companies you work with or continuing to work also. So how do you manage the situation? From your practical experience, some thoughts here.
I would reserve it, but to some extent, I would say the best way, I think, involve on proactive basis. You can't start doing a risk assessment after certainly yeah, STP mechanism straight through processing or whatever. Why just STP? Because now regulatory is pushing for that. As part of the governance and risk and compliance, but I would call it anything new, what you are doing, anything on your strategy, any product, service, new thing. Apart from doing a kind of a risk control matrix or whatever name you call, do for everything a kind of risk analysis, perceive risk on a proactive basis, then think through what can go wrong, right? If we do that exercise well, I think at least what is that we will be facing across. I would call many organizations go little bit historically. The proactive way of working on is something most desired to address even unknown risk, or at least you can gauge about or try to measure apart from identification of the risk. I suppose like I answered your question to some extent.
Yeah, you reserved the answer a bit. That's fine.
Okay. Let me move on to this slide, revenue recognition. You have gone through this. So, anything on chat you would like to mention about this? What kind of professional skepticism you would apply? There could be a big list. I thought probably again just to trigger your thoughts. Let me go to next slide where you will see a table again that is illustrative in nature only. Saravanan, can you please go to next slide?
So there's a chat question, Raman. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, revenue recognition principles undergo changes in response to new regulations. And for announcement, so was AI able to pick up the latest changes and respond to it appropriately?
Yeah, I just saw your chat message also. Absolutely. Saravanan, if you can move to next slide. You can see a kind of a quick list. As I told you, it is very illustrative at this time. You can modify, you can design your own kind of a review, right? Uh, I provided a lot like a validation of data source, accuracy, precision, the most important like scenario analysis, continuous monitoring we know, and we did discuss about external expertise. Don't expect like everything internally we will have skilled resource. Nothing wrong in seeking out from external experts. And regulatory, what the regulatory is talking about. This are all few you will be looking at. We'll move on. So this is a very quick, small, I think, case study. Ramesh is the internal auditor of a financial institution, discovers that strict adherence to regulation might compromise the organization financial stability. He faces ethical challenge, right? So there are 5A to E kind of points that you can go through. Any comments, let me know. What you will do if you are Ramesh? Yeah, can you take question? There is no reporting of gaps either by your statutory auditor or by regulator, and the management has not told you anything or no complaints from anyone. And you also think, there could be a kind of case where it could be evolving in nature, step by step, nothing wrong. So I'm getting a response here. Complaints is costly, but transgressions can be even costlier. So Ramesh might not be correct. Perfect. Good. I will move on to next.
Raman, I have a question on this. Can you just go back to this one? Hello.
Okay.
Can you go to the previous slide on this one? So what's your answer specifically? That balance between financial, yeah, there is always, you take risk in financial also, business passes, business fails. But always regulation, there is always a chance regulation, you have to comply, but there's an interpretation, right? How do we deal with this interpretation issues? And this is a question I keep asking my own people, tax people specifically. You interpret one way, the regulator interprets other ways. How do you manage that? And that's not ethical. That's perfectly ethical, right? So how do you balance the situation?
That is a point. Say you are talking about interpretation by the company, either to suits whatever suits them, or by the regulator. Always in between, there is a way. You can also ask for experts when in doubt. And second, you can always, I think nowadays the regulator also open if you have a kind of understanding issue or interpretation issue. I think that is not a challenge. So the most important is the complaints culture you have to bring in, then automatically everything will fall in place. Okay. Yeah, Saravanan, please move on.
But from a regulatory perspective, all these tools, etc., to an extent, right? After that, it's more self-compliance.
No, I'm not able to get your question fully. If you are saying my understanding, if you are talking about some tools or Excel based or whatever
Yeah, whatever
information.
post compliance happens, Raman, my view is always self-compliance is better. So you have to go at times behind the personal background as well. We are having this experience very clearly now because after COVID, you're having these stranger issues of mental health and all that coming in. So it's just not regulatory from a perspective in spirit and form, right? In not only in form but in spirit also. So it's becoming a
Correct.
tough challenge. This is my view. Again, subject to other views. It's becoming a tough challenge. What is
No,
ethical? There is pressure on revenues, always pressure on revenues. And you see so much of these regulators publishing so much of these reports, right? So, yeah, it's a very difficult balance according to me.
No, you are right. Say compliance is not by choice. You have to comply with, and you can't say because the regulator has not raised any kind of issues. But in the spirit of law, the compliance, whatever we need to comply with, you have to prepare plan. You have to understand the kind of the risk of falling or failing both, right? What is the kind of damage you will be creating to the company? Is that certainly I hope, like initially when I said it is not a regulator or legal risk, it is also the brand or reputation risk. So if your organization looking at the value system, or if it is imbibed well with all the employees, I don't think, like in the case study, Ramesh will think, yeah, the regulator never asked, there were no complaints, nothing like that. So it depends on when I said the complaints culture, the value system, it is very important. Are we really meaning it, or just say for the purpose of the paper records? So I hope let me give you a minute or two on this case Maya and Saya, right? I'm sure by now you people, it is not about just knowledge, all the four pillars of ethics, right? Right from integrity, objectivity, or confidentiality, everything is covered in the case studies. Any thoughts on this case, Maya? So the question of knowingly creating, algorithm or biased, whatever algorithm, for otherwise unfair and equitable, um, you know, commercial use, that is the kind of question. And if the internal auditor is either silent or not raising at appropriate forum, would that be an issue? Or just looking at, like what I mentioned, there could be a time, there could be huge loss, or rework on the plan, or the customers, if at all, like they got impacted, what they will do. All this kind of questions quite possible, but you have to look at if you are in that post like Maya. Let me move on. Go to next slide, please.
Where is the question of ethics coming here, Raman?
Okay.
In that Maya case, Raman, just 2 minutes. Is there ethics coming in, or it's just a bad tiff between business and audit?
Certainly, I guess it depends on your interpretation. There could be, it is not, there are certainly some ethical issues there. So in this case, I'm moving to next. Rahul is the internal auditor, confronts a scenario of whatever inconsistent financial information. So this is a very quick case study. If you are Rahul, what you would do? So Rahul knows about inconsistent financial information. Um, you can think about, if you are Rahul, certainly how you got the information, what is the source? Is that a credible, or have you tested it? You can't go to your management just like that. And also, how they manage regulatory return if there is a inconsistent financial information. But basically, why the risk assessment, it is not showing up properly, or is there a kind of inadequate or not a proper complete risk assessment? That's the kind of question I think I would expect here. There's also, the question about certainly the knowledge, right? And also the integrity is there, because Rahul could have done a whistleblow, at least, isn't it? Next slide, please. Yeah, I have used some celebrity name just to excite ourselves, right? I don't know whether Vijay or Rajnikant or Poggle Construction really exist here. So let me give you a minute. So, do you carry out any community impact assessment or similar to that? Is that required?
Raman, there's one or two questions from me. How good long case study? Hello?
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Raman, one or two questions.
Sorry, Ravi.
One of the questions is the setup itself, organization, reporting internally, externally, and what's the whistleblower or all those
Yeah,
ethical
these are all
things.
possible threat and possible, I would call it, on a level of knowledge, is it not enough? Or, just look at only the process, only the control. Normally, what the audit does, they have to think a little beyond, because the damage could be something you will know certainly, like a law of tort. If there is a kind of case filed on negligence, or there is a criminal, or the like corporate criminal kind of a responsibility or action on that, there could be a damage, and it will lead to financial risk, it will lead to huge penalties, or end of the day, the brand, that is also important. That's why I thought, like, trigger, is the internal auditor looking at multiple types of risk, or just looking at only the basic scope, or looking what has been given?
So what is meant by a community impact assessment, Raman?
No, I think I lost you, your voice a little bit breaking.
What is meant by community impact assessment?
Rather, I want that question to be answered by you. So it is rather community impact assessment is rather what kind of society impact, as internal auditor or as a organization, are you? Because our action also reflects in the society in some way or other, right? And this company in particular, they are in road construction, and we are the users or the society or the community, and are they caring about the society or community? That is important, because looking at only a regulatory related, what is ABCD kind of complaints, or have we got the permission for laying roads? Have we done properly? Either, putting across whatever kind of a roadblocks when laying the road. This are all normal thing. Are you going little beyond? If you care about the society, it is one side we talk about CSR. And this is another way of looking at is community impact assessment. For example, we talk about the carbon emission or the so-called ESG and other compliance, right? Or take the climate risk. It is also we need to evaluate. It's a big topic. I think I will reserve it for some other time to talk to you, but we have to look at from multiple angles. there could be easily a legal case on, if you don't look at community impact assessment, whether it is structured or unstructured. If you don't look at, if you live in that area and you want to, file certainly under law of tort or any other law, whatever applicable, you can easily claim damages of whatever millions or crores. So would that not be the internal auditor's responsibility? Try to understand the legal risk possible, right? That is the way, Ravi, I would take your question. I will move on to next slide.
How many times the scope of community assessment comes into play, Raman? I can leave it to the chat also. People on the members on
Yeah,
the
we can chat. We can chat on that. In the interest of time, probably I need to run something more. So we can always pick up a call and discuss. This anyway we covered in some other slides. So let me move on. Okay. You are the CAE of a leading bank. A customer raised a complaint and also he preferred a legal case, later claiming whatever lakhs in damages for a wrong or erroneous message that gave him something, a kind of life shock. You provided your reports stating you verified whatever controls on the mobile app and you ensured it is very effective. My question is, are you liable for the damages or is there like a vicarious liability that would apply? Also whether the customer can file because the controls are not working. He got a wrong message. So for negligence. These are all thoughts. I don't want to get into answer yes, no, whatever. We can chat, of course, but think about all this. I would ask, how effective is your legal risk assessment? By the way, I'm sure, Ravi sir, you would have seen this in multiple, newspaper every month at least. You would be able to see one or two messages like this, right? Wrong credit, wrong message, or wrong whatever. But the only thing we look at, how to fix it. From an organization point or from the bank's point, they look immediately at fixing. But there is also a possibility, or, the ownership, are we looking at the potential legal risk? Go to next slide, please. So for a change, there are many other case study, but this like a break. So this not directly for Institute of Internal Auditor, but anyway on ethics. It is like a tunnel story or train or many other you would have seen, like driverless car. This lifeboat. So I will give a couple of minutes. By the way, this is a popular case study. I just changed the characters here. So what you will do? Will you push CEO, CFO, HIA, superstar, Stalin, or a general public? What you will do? There's also ethics, right?
Raman, there's no CFO here. No, CFO can do everything.
CFO?
Can do everything.
It is there. CEO, CFO, superstar, all names.
But CFO can't swim. CEO can't do it. Can do everything. No?
I don't know. What you think? You can push if you are the boatman, you will push CEO or CFO or what? I'm not getting you.
No, the answer question is CEO can
And
he
there
do
could be
everything,
many
swimming,
ways of,
jumping. He can take everybody with him, right? So
or there could be many ways, but why to push? Do we have any authority to take somebody's life? That is one way of looking. Certainly, it is not fair. The another way you want, logically, I have not mentioned here whether CEO can swim. Imagine CEO can swim. He and the boatman can take every 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whenever till for some more time. They need to wait for some assistance, right? They can do one of them. They can jump in water, and other can manage the boat. It is quite possible, right? You can look at that way. But it is only a thought. People always answer, yeah, I will send out, I will put Stalin, I will put superstar, I will put CFO, I will put CEO. That is not the way. It shows the kind of, your, I would say the way our moral responsibility. Are we authorized to kill someone? Anupam, you are right. We'll go to next slide. Uh,
Raman, I'll push the oldest person out. No.
And that is, you're not authorized to pluck anybody's life again, whether it is superstar or, the lady can always say, I got a family. Everyone will have a family, right?
No, but there's always a choice you need to make, right?
It is all thoughts. Don't expect right answer, but if you expect right answer, what only I said, CEO can swim. You can swim for another 5-10 minutes. You can swim alongside of the boat, and the boatman can manage with other. Then boatman can swim. CEO can manage the boat. You can come with any answer. It is not for right or wrong answer. Just to trigger, how really morally, ethically we are good.
So that's the thing that
So going back to
can take
cricket,
a safety route. Something they're asking. Good question, Balaji. Is there possible to take another safe measure like a log or another help boat?
let me move on here to this case study. I'm using all cricketers' name. What happened? Yeah. So I hope nobody, Bimra, Rohit, or Surya Kumar, they're not going to file a case on me or IAA, right? But go through the case study. Do you find something missing out? That is what I am looking at. I hope you understand the case. This is quite common, right? When there is a loan repayment that is not happening, they repossess the car and they sell the car. Certainly, it will be a lower value, right? It can't be with exactly the outstanding amount. So it would be at a little bit depreciated or lower value. And in this case, Ishan filed a case that you sold much lower than whatever normal depreciation value. He claimed compensation and won an order with additional fine or damage. So is there anything missing? Internal auditor should have been careful there. Um, Ravi, this happened in Kotak Mahindra Bank for your information.
But this question always happens, right? Repossession, reassessment, selling
Because
value,
not it will be
after
sold at
process.
less, because you can't keep at yard for a longer period. You have to sell at a best rate whatever you are getting and minimize the loss. But the owner, they can always slap a kind of case, consumer court case. This all possible. The kind of legal risk assessment, internal auditors should look at all possible legal risk and how they have a control or at least some documentary evidence. Do they get a consent? Do the loan agreement provide they can sell at a much lower than normal depreciation or straight line depreciation value? What the law says. These are all important, but honestly, many people miss out that. Then the auditor will not be able to find anything. Then ACB will be in a shock or surprise. Let us move on to next slide. Okay, from here, how many of you, or I hope like all of you, know about dark patterns? There will be 7 or 8 cases, each on different type of dark patterns, right? So, the first one is about false urgency. There's a very simple case. Please go through. This is important again from multiple angles of, risk or risk mitigation. Internal auditor should know about this. I'm not using booking.com. I said sbooking.com. But anyway, booking.com use this kind of false urgency. They create very false urgency. So anything you want to mention about, like if you're an internal auditor, what you missed out, or if you happen to know, would you raise this? Okay, legal risk of making misrepresentation. Okay, there's also a complaints issue nowadays. From legal risk, it is also additionally becoming a compliance risk. I will move to next slide. So this, many of you would have experienced basket sneaking. I'll give a couple of minutes for you to read. So, do you have any ethical concern here? I'm getting a reply response. His serious ethical and legal concern at this induced selling. Okay. Anything else? But I would also ask you, why then, as chief audit executive, when you looked at the platform control and you are totally satisfied, your report says control effective, is that not, I would say, ethical violation? Is that right? And why, my question again, why it was not raised to ACB? This is a kind of, issue probably certainly people working in or using online platform, they need to look at, because it is legal and also a compliance risk, looking at other factors as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, I'll give a couple of minutes. You would have seen several kind of tagline like, like in the booking screen, I will stay unsecured if you do not include insurance in the cart. Uh, Probably like in flight insure, like booking ticket for flight, or even some purchase or subscription services. This all common, but my point is, the audit's expansion or knowledge, it has to be more. The kind of risk we are looking at, it is not just operational risk, it could be much more legal, regulatory compliance, to so on. And also there could be a technology kind of a risk. Next slide, please.
Raman, I just have a question here.
Yeah, sure.
So they're on the website, right? All this. So they don't force, right? If you don't want the insurance, you can get out. It's okay. But if you're going to use unsecured, etc., is that unethical?
No, can you come again?
Can you go to the previous slide? Unsecured was put,
Previous
right?
slide.
And
Okay.
so that pushes the customer to say, no, let me buy insurance. That's what you're saying, prompting, right?
You are talking about forcing adding whatever insurance, right?
Right. The word I will stay unsecured is unethical, right? That's the question.
Correct. Someone is asking, does a monopoly MRTP explicitly prohibit? If not, then there is a legal. As I told you, the Consumer Act, or looking at the dark patterns, is mandatory. No e-commerce platform or any organization, they should not be using any whatever online service. They should not be engaging in any of the dark patterns. Earlier, it was all like a draft rule. Now it is published. It is an order rather. So your point is, is that explicitly prohibit, or it is not prohibiting? You all know, like whether it is travel site or any other type of site, whatever dark patterns you are looking at in the last couple of, what I said, like false urgency or basket sneaking or this one confirm shamming. It is all practically it is happening, we know, but it is time for the organization to look at, are they practicing in any one unethical manners, second, are they violating any act, and then what kind of a legal reputation operational kind of issue, because even operational, at some point of time the customers are not going to be happy when they know they are charged whether 100 rupees more or lakhs whatever more, right? It touches upon multiple risk drivers if you look at from the taxonomy. Let us go to next slide. Here I have given an example about forcing. You downloaded, you paid for one app. You also get into something like, another app mandatorily you are able to, you have to get download. and you have to pay for that. Without that, your whatever you paid for the first app, let me say, in this case, SBuy, you are not able to use for accessing anything on buying property. So that is what it is called, right? Forced action. You're pushing the companies or the organization, whoever using this kind of a dark pattern, they push. Otherwise, you will be losing some money, whatever you are paid for that. And you can always see this kind of possible justification, given a very simple example, like somebody buying a popcorn at PV or cinema. They say anyway people are coming and spending thousands of rupees, right? They really don't mind about spend extra couple of hundred. The same logic whether it will apply for when you do online service in a platform. That is the question. But unfortunately, if the internal auditor, they are not aware of the compliance and legal risk, they are going to get into all sort of the penalization or slapping of big legal cases, right? They have to get ready. Go
Raman,
next
but I have
slide,
a
please.
question. Is this customer ignorance or customer possibility? How do you say? Yeah, ethics and legality, right? That's a bottom line here. So how do you interpret this?
Can you chat or put your question in the chat, because Ravi, it is not that clear to me. I hope
No,
you
I
are
just
in
put,
your car or outside. Looks like.
no, I just put it on the chat. No, ignorantia juris non excusat or something.
Yeah, ignorantia juris non excusat.
Hmm. So which law does this go against?
Yeah, ignorance of law is not an excuse, but normally, we apply. Internal auditor never does that, but advocates who practice criminal law, they use that. You can't go and kill a person and say, I just got excited. I never know killing is or murdering a person, it is a crime. Nobody can go and say that. So by and large, ignorantia juris excusat use used in the criminal law, but nothing wrong. You can apply that logic, but we are talking from the auditor's platform here, or I would call, one certainly there is a integrity or corporate moral responsibility also there. Why you want to cheat any your customers? Are you good to your customers? It is not just internal auditor, but the internal auditor got a voice, and certainly they need to raise that, either at ACB or to their MD or whoever, and address them with a proper recommendation and what can go wrong. It is a penalty. So you are losing financially, and also you will be losing customer if that is known to everyone about your practice. Anything, right? So I would call like three or four kind of a major risks that can impact the organization. So what the auditor does, are they taking proactive role or looking at, I am not scoping this, or it is not in my calendar, I will do that, maybe next year. Or like one of the case study we saw, compliance is evolving, we will take it at appropriate time. So you have to smell the risk. That is what I said earlier. Like at least as internal auditor, you try to inform operations side here. Say yeah, A B C D. This is a kind of a risk. I look at you put controls, and then you look at what is the better way of proactive, responding or taking it to higher ups. We'll go to next slide. This is a case about, people know about, many of us or all of us might be using Netflix also, right? Do you know, or can you easily navigate if you want to cancel your subscription, or you have a card already registered there and you want to close that? And it is not that easy. You have to navigate, not just like that. It is not visible. It is not that it is not there. It is there very much, but they will make you spend more time, and they will try to convince you end of the day before searching how to go and close it and remove your credit card. By then you will say, yeah, I will pay whatever 199 or 299 or any rupees. Continue Netflix. That is unfortunately the way, right? So in this case, I have asked, would you, if you are confronted or, probably whoever head of the business or CTO in this case, say this is the way the market operate, and, if you have issue, um, why it was earlier approved, and would you change your opinion again? After knowing the facts, after talking to several leaders, would you go back and change your opinion on controls effectiveness? Okay. Let me move on to next slide. This on interface interference. I'll give you a minute or two. But you would have seen several websites where you would not be able to, just like that, close the pop-ups also, right? Or as I mentioned, like, the symbol could be otherwise. You may think you are closing it, but rather you would be opening it. These are all possible. It is not just knowledge or objectivity or whatever. I think some point of time we have to gear up about all this, what is happening or what's going to happen. How really we are prepared as auditors or risk professions. Move on, please. This is about bite and switch. So the question here is, many times people rely on, it could be internal knowledge or looking at the control systems auditor report or external expertise certification or report, whatever. From an ethical point, you have to look at, is a company's responsibility, or as auditor, do you need to raise it again? What could be the kind of a damage or risk? That is a key point in any of the dark patterns. There are one or two more, but these are all several schemes under dark patterns. It is good to know and good to think about, what you do in your organization, because there will be a right answer. Always people will talk about, like, it went through appropriate approval mechanism, threadbare kind of a discussion on controls. You got it certified or external kind of reviews, independent reviews, all fine. But are we missing out something? Are you happy end of the day? Like initially in the few slides, whether your family will be happy if you look at, your organization is doing ABCD like this, or trying to give any opportunity exploit, the customer, make the customer to pay something more. Are you allowing that? Go next slide, please. This on drip pricing. Say all the rules or schemes or scenarios and dark patterns by and large will have some kind of, the intent. The intent is on integrity, right? From the company, and whether the auditor is playing by the rule book, the standards, what the IAA is prescribing, or just you are playing across for commercial profits or whatever your business requires. Or I don't want to say dilute your report because you would have done only per scope. Like I mentioned here, you looked at the platform control, you got well satisfied. Are you happy with it, or do you carry ethical responsibility over and above looking at process controls or any form of technology controls? That is a question about even in this case. Here I mentioned in the last couple of lines, you can say your ACB noted a legal case when a consumer purchased a gym membership. To use the gym, he was made to purchase special shoes, right? But it was not displayed. There is no kind of information available. Like if you purchase a gym, mandatorily you will be asked to buy some shoes or whatever, gloves, etc. Right? So this what you have to look at. What do you do at your role? Go next slide, please.
Raman, I have a question
I
here on
think
the Googles of the world, Metas of the world, or whatever it is. They operate this way, right? So how do you stop all this?
Ravi, I would request you to probably chat or put it on message because the voice is breaking. I think you are traveling or driving something.
Can you hear me now? Better?
Better, better.
Yeah, but the Googles of the world and all that stuff, they are pushing you to a direction, right? When you log in next time, they push you with the data in and you can choose. Third time, they know where you're going, which site you're searching and all that. Is that ethical
Yeah.
or not ethical?
Thanks to AI, we are not, there is nothing called privacy in this digital world, right? They know with the Google map exactly where, if I am sitting in my office at Patulas Road, I think certainly because my mobile is not moving for last couple of hours, right? And similarly, wherever you are traveling, and you from, I would say beyond like, don't go to the big tech. Look at your organization, what you can do. Let me look at this. There's something on the advertisement. And again, if you're the IA head, is it enough to check just control or reviewed? Or because when I say reviewed by external, auditor, you can't be just relying on external auditor because the scope what you would have given to that consulting firm matters, right? Did you ask to provide a entire kind of potential risk, including compliance, legal, operational, everything, or just validate few platform controls? If you provide only a scope of platform control and say Gandhi is certified, I don't think we can be of that can be of any help to you, right? I think Ravi, you would agree with my point. So let me move. There is one another slide on dark patterns. I think that's the last one. This on nagging. It is similar. Ravi, you were talking about, ignatia juris non its skill set. I would call one is let the buyer beware, and also you can talk about the good fight or the Uber me fide. It is not enough, I would say, if you trust, yeah, let the buyer beware, I don't care, then you're weak on ethical responsibility. That is the point we have to drive here. Entire, as I mentioned, dark pattern is something about the compliance, the mandatory compliance. If you ask me what other companies in the e-commerce in India or outside India they do, I think slowly and steadily we have to, because there is a corporate responsibility. Do we want really the customers, our customers, right? End of the day, they are the pillars. And are you allowing or the customers to get cheated? Do you want to exploit your customers? If you ask that question, I think we will get a better answer. Yeah, you are right, Anupam. We'll move to next slide. I think, yeah, I have only one. You can think about who sets the dash for contact, creates, defines, and trust breeds. Go to next slide. I will stay for a couple of minutes on this slide. So, who is responsible for the ethical climate in your organization? Is it CEO, internal auditor, management leadership, CRO, attorney, HR? Who you think is responsible? Can I say it is? I am addressing to Institute of Internal Auditors members. Can we say it is internal auditor because you have a standard? Any thoughts? Okay. I will call it is everyone's responsibility. It is I have given the names CEO, CRO, attorney, IAD, internal auditor, all this kind of it is just it is all important. They are also responsible, and then everyone at all levels of the organization. It is not just one person. If individually at whatever be the level, the employees, they think, yeah, it is ethics, it is somebody's responsibility, I don't care, then it's a problem. So I would call it is not just a few members of the management, it is everyone's responsibility, right? Thanks. I am done. I'm open for any questions. Saronan, you can close the share.
Raman, there was one question: who's board or leadership, right? And a lot of questions between the board and leadership. So how do you handle that situation? You have this recent issue, public. It's on the public, one of the divorce cases and ethics coming in, and the company now is in trouble. So how do you explain those issues?
Ravi, I would request you again to come again because either I have a system problem or your voice, I'm not getting it.
No, that was
Sorry.
the latest case, right? There was a divorce between the managing director and a person, his wife, and then the company is now in trouble. So there are a lot of legal things going on, ethics also coming into play. How do you prevent such situations? Ethics is one side, but yeah.
No, preventing is something like, example, I would say, if people say I will have no fraud in my organization, I think that is not a right statement, right? Because every company, even ACFE report, if you pick it up, at least 5% of the top line they lose every year per annum, you call, on fraud. So if someone says, there will be no or there is no fraud in my organization, that is how you call like ethics, right? either the auditor or someone who is responsible, they are not knowledgeable. So similarly on ethics or legal or compliance or risk, it will be there how really we are able to, touch upon, at least identify, measure. And there is always a bucket, you have residual risk, right? Not that you have to have a controls for each and every identified risk and, mapping with your controls. You bucket it, monitor it, see alternate or remedial action wherever required at least. But for ethics, it is something different. Are you following? That is the kind of, moral responsibility every individual, as professionals, we need to ask ourselves. We have to start from there and try to be proactive. I would call when we look at something beyond and, throw your kind of whatever possible imagination up. It is much easier. If you look at a more historical bookish method of, or transactional kind of auditing, not one of the reason I would call the risk-based auditing or risk-based supervision or, whatever name you call end of the day, this helps a lot because ethics eventually comes certainly from one of the, you call from the fourth pillar or you call from any of the missing act or wrongdoing, right? Why we are not able to identify whatever risk owners when they perform, why they have not called you on a proactive or kind of advisory role, right? And why we are not using expertise. There could be several, I would say, you have to balance, you have to look at, proactive, looking at only, yeah, I will do only ABCD on control effectiveness, design and operating effectiveness. Then the question is the organization is just okay with that or they want to, really live with the values.
To that one question, Raman, how do you balance ethics and regulations?
That is an interesting question. I think I will rather probably encourage one of the participants. Let us see if any one of the 31 attendees would like to respond through chat, at least how they balance ethics in their corporate life. Let us see.
You want to unmute right now or keep on going? You have a question, Raman, on Q&A?
One second. Yeah, you are asking about how to balance ethics and regulation, right?
Yeah, we'll park that question for time being. In the event of an incident, there's a Q&A there from Mr. Balaji.
In the event of incidents like one of the dark pattern, how can IAD distinguish between the two? No, that is, Balaji, I would answer this way, like, first, I guess Ravi will recommend is typing an answer. I would just try to wait. Ravi, please go ahead.
No,
I
I'm not
believe you
typing
want to
anything, Raman. I
respond.
just looked at it. That's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I would call first, how the organization is looking at, the practice. If it is uh, either I won't say similar or resembling, or they should know first, would that fall under any of the dark pattern scenario that has been mandatorily or I would say the government or the Consumer Act, it is prohibited. You can't have that. It is should not be in vogue or, then that becomes first compliance issue. And then, look at between due to fraud and genuine lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge, I think the way how proactively you look at, you discuss or you participate, then you will try to know why they are first of all not updated. So the lack of knowledge at some point of time won't exist, because when they are designing something, they ought to know about that, because the result they are trying to use any one of the dark pattern, they want to benefit out of it. So how it is genuine lack of knowledge? I think that's a kind of point you have to look at. So the next point, how people would exploit, for fraudulent. That's a question your fraud risk assessment or any part of the control risk you have to look at. Any other questions? Deepika, I would request over to you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks all the participants. Thanks, Ravi.
Deepika ma'am is not
Thanks,
here.
Raman sir. Okay, thanks, Raman, for the good session. It's very interesting, and it's very always a debate how to balance both of them, ethics and regulations. And wherever
Absolutely.
that question comes to me, at least my view is to go for regulations first, because I've had a lot of debates with the senior management saying regulation itself is difficult to follow. Ethics obviously is good practices, and trust also comes into play. So it's a very thought-provoking session. A lot of these questions, you are right, have very varied answers, interpretations, but also situations as well. So in a growing technology world, a lot of these things have to be understood in the right sense, because the way technology is overtaking so many things, it's going to be very interesting how ethics also will play, especially the AI side of things, and crypto also trying to come back in its own way. So it'll be interesting to see how ethics also will take over. But ultimately, yes, you're right. We need to have a good system in place, good organization culture in place, and trust also plays an important part. And always think customer as important on all aspects, and just not the regulatory side, but everything. So thanks, and thanks once again for the patient hearing members, and once again, great session, Raman. Any questions? This is on session, so any questions, feel free to IAORG or to Raman Narasimhan. I can share his Hotmail ID or his number, but the recorded session is always there. You can write to us and we'll be happy to support. Thanks for the Saturday evening. Sorry, we did it on Saturday evening, but yeah, we are all tight on schedules, and I wish you a happy
Yeah,
new year.
I'm not.
Maybe there might be one more event before the year end.
Ravi,
So hopefully,
thanks
Raman,
for
you
the
got your
opportunity.
food delivered. Hopefully, you got your food delivered. Sorry, I couldn't do the food arrangements for you. Hopefully, you got your food done. So
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. And I'm not saying, okay, it is unethical to pull me on a Saturday evening for 2 hours. I'm not saying you spoiled my PVR show for whatever movie today. Nothing like that. I enjoyed the session. Thanks again. It is certainly an honor, to be here every year, or at least, once in a while. Thanks. Thank you.
thank you, sir.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
sir.
everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Deepika. Bye.